Hi everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. So for today's panel, we'll be talking about, the agritech sector, specifically, companies that help to bridge the gap between consumers and suppliers and farmers. In Indonesia, which we know as agriculture, according to the World Bank, is about 13.7% of the country's GDP. It's worth about $145 billion. So it seems like there's a lot of opportunity there. I have two founders with me. I have David Satyadi Gunawan, who is from Eden Farm. His company actually raised $19 million last year in November from AdWorks and AC Ventures and others. And then I have Farid Aslam, who is from Aruna, which does fishing, and $8 million just in January from Vertex, Prosus Ventures, and others. And yeah, without further ado, I think I'll get them to introduce their companies. They probably know it a lot better than me. So yeah, just get if you guys introduce yourselves and as well as the company that you founded. Maybe David, if you'd like to go first, and then Farid can go next.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you so much for having me here. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is David. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Eden Farm. Eden Farm is a B2B agritech company that distributes fresh produce from farmers to restaurants, to street vendors, to pasar sellers, enterprises, and other B2C startups. I found Eden Farm back in 2017. Now we work directly with around 3,500 farmers across Java Island to cater the needs of around 50,000 businesses, also across Java Islands. Today, we are a team of 1,000 people, and we have a supply and distribution network spans across Java Island and several other islands in Indonesia. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, David. Farid, you should like to go next. Just introducing Aruna. Oh, okay. So I think there was some technical difficulties with Farid. I will speak to him later. But maybe as we wait, David, I guess just kind of curious, like what kind of opportunities did you see in agritech? I mean, it's not something like an industry that a lot of young people would probably want to go into, but at the same time, it does seem like, hey, the class population, people care more about what they're eating nowadays. So maybe there's opportunities there, but just kind of curious, like what got you interested, and yeah.
Okay. So I think first of all, when there is not many people wanted to go to the industry, it means there is huge opportunity there. That's my personal point of view. And then I saw lots of room for improvement, whether especially on the supply side. You know, the farmers in Indonesia are very fragmented and very traditional. And the one thing that is there, or the opportunity there is within the farmers community today, is they start changing generations from old farmers to their sons or to their daughters. And I think this is a perfect time for us from the startup community or from the technology company to give a better technology to them, because now they are more well-read, they are more educated, and then they can accept new things, so the opportunity is there.
Okay, cool. I think you did touch a lot of points, like there it is quite an analog sector. It's changing hands. People seem to be more open to technology nowadays. But I'm kind of curious, maybe what are some of the difficulties about this sector? It seems the opportunities are there, but is it difficult in terms of getting farmers on board, the back-end technology, finding enough talent to go on the ground in these second and third tier cities, for example?
Yeah. So I think the main challenge that we are facing today, we have three main challenges. The first one is we handle around 500 different types of fresh produce every day, and that it has to be delivered delivered exactly on time, because we are dealing with businesses customers. You know, when we fail to deliver, it is very fatal to them, because they could not open their shops that day, meaning they will lost the whole revenue, and we will be very feel very guilty. They will be very angry, and our reputations will be very bad, right? So it has to be perfect, almost perfect on a daily basis. And then the second challenges is to teach these farmers on how to do farming best practices. I mean, I know they came from generations of farmers, but today we are facing a global warming, meaning that the way we farm is different compared to 10 years ago. So the soil conditions is different, the weather conditions is different. So we need to research, to do research on it, and then to develop a new SOP for these farmers and teach them on how to do it. And then the final things that we found it's going to be a bit challenging for us in the near future is we will supply our farmers with data analytics, so that they can become an independent farmers, really understand about what they're doing and what problem they are facing in on their field. Yeah, this is very new technology, and they never done this before. Yeah, teach them on how to correlate several metrics with solutions is going to be a bit of a challenge in the near future.
Okay, thanks, David. I think we've got a few questions to follow on. Get back to Farid first. Thanks for joining us again, Farid. Yeah, I just really wanted you to introduce Aruna to our audience, as well as maybe like why you decided to go into this as well, something that people will, you know.
Okay, thank you, Raso. So Aruna is a platform. We serve as an end-to-end supply chain aggregator between the enterprise or small, medium enterprise in Indonesia to connect with the fishermen and fish farmer all over Indonesia by leveraging technology to route the supply chain. So we make the distribution and the supply chain within the fisheries industry become more efficient with our platform. And if you talk about the background of the company, the founding team member is basically coming from this background too. Like the two of the co-founder is coming from the fisherman family. So that's why the reason why we create this company at first. If you talk about the current situation with Aruna Progress now, we already operate in more than 100 plus locations all over Indonesia. In more than 20 provinces in Indonesia that covering 70% of the total geographical Indonesia of Indonesia. And if you talk about the market too, we already export the product to more than 5 countries. And for domestic, we already have more than 1,000 customers, that mostly small, medium enterprises. So that's a brief introduction about Aruna.
Oh, okay. So I guess, you know, you guys are in different, one is in fish, the other one is in maybe fish, like vegetables and fruits, and, you know, I think like David touched on, one thing is getting, you know, farmers can be quite traditional. I'm just thinking, and, you know, I think both of you guys are trying to maybe shorten the supply chain, and help them to get to the restaurants and the consumers a lot faster. But I also assume that they have very strong relationships with their middlemen, the people that you're trying to maybe cut out. I'm just thinking, like, how do you guys get them on board? Does it take months? Is it a very expensive project because you got to get a lot of salespeople to visit them over and over again? Yeah. Maybe David, you want to go first, and I think you can respond after that also.
Sure. Okay then. So I think first we have to understand there are a multi-layer of middlemen, right? And the middleman that you are referring to is a village middleman. We call them as a village middleman. Usually they are the farmers leader within that village, and they are the one who has a strong bond with these traditional farmers. So the way we work with them is actually quite easy. You know, at first step, we usually give them a good quality demand. This is to gain their trust. So we give them a demand which has a consistency in terms of period and also big volume. After they are comfortable with us, maybe around 2 months or 3 months, some of them can get maybe after 1 month, they already very we have a very good chemistry, and then after that we bring them to one of our collection facilities. We have multiple collection facilities across farming villages, and then we show them how the collection facilities give income not only to the farmers but also to the local villages, because local villages can work inside the collection facilities to help us with multiple processes. And then we also show them that we have multiple technology that can help them, that can make their life easier. So from this, after they are quite easy to be convinced after they see all of our facilities and all of our technology. After that, we will give this middleman an employment. So we will offer them to work for us, and usually we hire them as a farmers relationship managers, and then we build new collection facilities in his village. And then after that, they will join us without creating an enemy in a way. And that's how we deal with the middleman.
Okay. Okay. I'm kind of curious though. I guess that means starting with showing them demand first. And just wondering, maybe then on the farmer side, but on the restaurants and the buyers side, how do you build trust?
Sorry, I didn't catch it clearly. But if I'm wrong, you are asking me about. Yeah, you're asking me about how to acquire customers on the demand side, right? Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, maybe you have showed the demand first. Yeah, correct. Yes.
Okay. The way that I get to acquire a new customers from the early days is we do direct visit. So I used to be the salesman, so I visit door to door from cafes. Now I have a team to do that. Usually after we do several visits and then we will convince our customers to transact with us, to use our apps, and then we also figure out a way to make a loyal customers by providing them with almost complete product variety. Each of these restaurants have the characteristic of consistent demand, and they always order the same thing on the same day. So we can figure out what their basic necessity is. Usually we will provide them that, and they will become dependent on us. And this consistency will create a pattern, and this pattern we will bring it back to the farmers to create more and more loyal farmers. So that's how the logic is.
Sorry, thanks. Sorry guys for the technical difficulties. But yeah, sorry. Wanted to go back to you. I think was really like, how do you maybe form the squad? Maybe if you can share maybe some of the challenges in this business. Is it getting a farm from before? It sounds like it's a very traditional industry, so maybe convincing them to use technology might be a bit hard.
Yeah. Okay, Rachel. So I would like to answer the challenging that we face currently. At first, when we starting Aruna, mostly on how we utilize technology in the right way, because it's not always about sophisticated technology when we are working with this kind of community. It's about how implementing this technology in the right way. Because what happened with us, we try to validate the one that use our apps or our platform, like the fishermen at first, and then it didn't work because the fishermen already focus on the production and they already focus how to keep the quality. So that's why the one that use our apps are currently not the producer itself directly, but an agent that we call the local heroes, that become the one that become like a community manager for the community, and then the one that become the manager of the hub, the collection point that we built, and the one that use our apps. So that's the one thing about how to choose the right technology. And also the problem within Indonesia that the infrastructure is not the same within the location, another location. So what we try to implement is how to make technology that can be applied in offline model situation where the connection is not good enough. We still can get the data and send the data in the smallest compression methods. So we call it like offline first technology, like something like that. So that's the way on the technology things. And the second thing about the scalability. The important thing, because this is not only about the technology side, the apps, but also how we make a business process that could be scalable enough, how we can duplicate in multi-location fastly, because for fisheries, we cannot depend on one location only. We have to diverse our location in many locations so we can give a comfort situation for our customer that we can provide to them in many seasons, in many situations with this diverse location. So that's the challenging, how to make it scalable. So that's why we spend like 2 years only to validate that business process. And after that, when we already validating, we can scaling up so fast. Like now we already have like 100 plus collection hub all over Indonesia that I mentioned previously. So I think that's the 2 points. The business process is scalable enough, and then the technology the right way. And the last thing maybe on the talent. It's everyone problem on the talent. So it's just the way we give a value to our to the one that want to work with us together. So for Aruna itself, what we offer to them is the value to give an impact, not only for them to grow, but also giving the impact to the community that currently like contribute to 25% of Indonesian poverty rate, this fisheries community. So they can give a huge impact if they are working with us.
Thanks. Sorry. And yeah, I mean, I think you guys touched on a few things. I was also going to ask about the whole technology bit, because I guess Wi-Fi may not be the best, I assume, in the rural areas. But there's something else that you talked about that I also wanted to go in. I think it's the challenge of logistics, especially fresh produce. I know that you guys have your own warehouses, your own collection point, but I would assume that there are challenges in terms of maybe traffic, in terms of getting from one island to another, the number of paved roads in Indonesia. I'm just thinking, like, for you guys, how have you how have you guys going to maybe patch that up? So sorry, let me just type my question in the box as well.
Okay, should I go first?
Yeah, so I think my question was about logistics and how you guys are maybe trying. Yeah.
Okay, should I go first to answer it?
Yeah, sorry.
All right then.
Yeah, you go first. Sorry.
Okay then. All right then. Well, before we talk about the logistics, I think we have to understand that we in Indonesia agri space have 2 comparative advantage compared to the other regions. One is we have only 2 seasons here, meaning that we only have hot and rainy seasons. And the second one, we have a very fertile land all as far as the eyes could see, you know. So it means that from the farming perspective, we can plant anything anywhere, meaning that we don't have to rely on cross island supplies or even cross region supply. So the way we work at Eden Farm is by planting the crops around the consuming cities. That way, we have very minimum logistic problems, and also the logistic cost is very cheap. And everything with that model, we can provide, we can deliver crops from harvest to the kitchens in around 10 hours. We don't need to use any refrigerated trucks to do that. Because based on my calculations, if we do use the refrigerated trucks or we plan so far from the consuming cities, the price just won't make sense. So yeah, that's the logistic problems, how we solve it, and yeah, I think we are optimizing the Indonesian situations.
Okay, okay. From Aruna, maybe. So yeah, from Aruna's side about the logistic situation, what we do at first is when we decide a new location, we always do like feasibility study about the basic infrastructure of the logistic that area can cover. So we always analyze that at first. If there is like a port or a port or something like that, we can decide we open in that location. So that's the way we are thinking. And the second thing, always for Aruna, we mostly working for the transportation with the 3PL logistic for the transportation, including the local and also the national wide transportation. We have so many list of the perishable local logistic company and also national wide company. For the local, it's many, but for national wide, it's not so many, like below 5 company that we already have a list, but have that capability of perishable transportation. But in terms of warehouses, what we do is we put our people on that. We establish our standardization on the warehouses. So that's why every point when the fish moves to warehouses is always using our standardization. So it given the end-to-end integration within the supply chain from our collection hub to the transit warehouse until the bio warehouses. With this situation with Aruna, we can optimize the, like we call it post-harvest loss, the commodity that degrade during the distribution. If we talk about the industry of fisheries in Indonesia, 30 to 40% of post-harvest loss happen all the fisheries industry. But with Aruna, with this end-to-end integration, our reject rate, the one that reject by our customer, the quality that we need only between 1 to 2%. So it's very important to have this situation with the collection hub that we standardize when we first get the commodity from the producer, the fishermen and farmers. And after that, along the way, we simplify, we standardize the warehouses. And when it's already become a network for Aruna, we can choose the shortest path where the demand is nearest, like the David say. Now we already implement that.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Richard, I'm just going to take over because I think the internet connection is very unstable. It's okay. Thank you, David. Thank you, Farid. Thanks, Rachel. Maybe if you can just add in your questions if you have any, I'll just take it over from here. Maybe just a follow-up question since you were talking about logistics in Indonesia. The fact that both of you are also dealing with one in fisheries and another in fresh produce and vegetables. Price is definitely an issue because you are definitely serving, basic needs for ordinary Indonesians. How do you guys think about, in terms of pricing, how are you helping to keep prices low for both your businesses as well as consumers in the Indonesian market?
Well, I think the easiest way to explain it is just to simply cut the multi-layer of the middleman. From that alone, we can secure more than 20% of cost saving, right? And then also to keep the waste very low. That's our take. We have developed an infrastructure to keep our waste maybe only around 0.5%, which is very good in the fresh vegetable space. With that minimum waste, we can reduce more price level to our customers. Usually, our customers, although the price sometimes fluctuate, following the market price, but our customers still can have consistently lower price than the market price. Usually, they can have around 10% to 20% cheaper price when the goods are coming from us, and that's how we do it.
Okay. Sorry?
Yes, I think the same situation with us. When we make the layers of distribution more efficient, we can have a lot of more saving. Like the saving will be a lot because there is like 3 or 4 layers that we can cut, and that the margin that we can save around 20 to 30% too. But the other situation with Aruna, with the fisheries customer that we have, most of them always want continuity, not on the pricing. They often they barely negotiate for the pricing, but what they want to have is we can provide them consistently, and we can increase our portion to them, because the situation with us is we have more demand other than the supply. So that's the thing. So what we do now with Aruna is for the customer is to keep the quantity stable, even increase, because we always expand new location. But for the farmers, what we do is how to educate, how to move, how to educate them to choose the right commodity with the right quality, so they can produce less, but they can get more value, focusing on that one. So what happened with Aruna fishermen, they get more income, but the interesting thing, the volume is lesser than non-Aruna fishermen, because they focus on export-oriented product, high value fish, but in small quantity. So in monthly basis, they can get more income. Based on the data that we have from the independent academic research, our fishermen can get like 50% up for the price increase. And also in terms of income, at least they can get 2 times compared to non-Aruna fishermen.
Can both of you give me a sense in terms of what kind of margins you guys have for you guys as a business, and yeah, maybe a little bit into the way that you guys are monetizing? Is it a fee model? I don't know if the both of you have very different types of business models, but maybe the monetization model for each of your businesses.
Well, Eden Farm has been evolving to be quite complicated model. It is not just a simple trading model, but we also produce the fresh goods by ourselves, and also we consolidate produce from many other farmers community. But on average, the gross margins are ranging from 10% to 40%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, depends on the commodity and where the commodity are coming from.
Okay. So you guys just take a cut off every transaction, total transaction values that you guys generate? Is that how it works?
Well, it is not like a marketplace model. It's gonna be like we buy from the farmers and then we sell it to the restaurants. So we keep an inventory, but less than 10 hours.
Okay. Sorry?
Yeah, for us, the business model is the same. Like we take the inventory risk from the fishermen or farmers, and then we got the margin for every transaction, and it's depend on the commodity. But because we mainly focus on high value fish, the margin always double-digit % in terms of margin that we get, the net margin. So I think that's an overview. And for Aruna, the business model is not only on the transactional basis, but within our basis of the fishermen and the farmers, we can get another services that we give to them, like the financing services. We do the partnering with the peer-to-peer lending or bank institution, so we get the commission fee, another income that we get from that partnership. But mainly the contribution of the revenue from the distribution model that we got, like the Eden Farm.
And how are your margins like for it? Is it similar to David's?
Similar around that too.
Okay.
But it's kind of sensitive questions, you know.
Just doing my job.
That's okay.
Yeah, the other question I have as well is when you talk about scaling, I think this is a two-part question. Obviously, both of you are in hyper-growth mode now. One of the things that you guys are looking at is scaling your business as quickly as possible, doubling down, reinvesting in your company and your operations. One of them is how do you go about scaling a company at an early stage like this, and scaling a company when you're dealing with logistics in a market that is as fragmented and as traditional as Indonesia, and you're dealing also with perishables that are dependent on supply chain systems like you guys. How do you guys think about scaling? Strategy in terms of scaling on that particular front? Maybe you can start with that first. Anyone of you can start on that.
Okay, I'm going to start first. So I think we have several principles when we scale. We have several principles like supply sources have to be within 200 kilometers from the consuming cities, and also everything must move in and out in less than 10 hours. That way we can have a very scalable and cheap model to develop. And then also we have to know where we put our collection facilities, because although we have a very fertile soil, but in Indonesia have a very traditional farming area. Some of the farmers are planting paddy in several regions, planting chili in the other region. So we know how to put or where to put the collection facilities in order to get all the fresh produce needed by the restaurants.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's from Eden Farm.
Okay, Farid?
Yeah, for Aruna, what we do with this scalability topic is how we secure, how we build based on demand driven. So what Aruna have now, we always, when we opening new location, when we starting to building a hub near the fisherman village, we always starting from the demand that we got. So we secure the demand first. When we already secure the specific or the quantity that we already need, a huge amount of quantity, we will start to develop a hub in every region that we think that region has the potential commodity like the customer needs. So it always like this. And the situation I mentioned, the problem with Aruna is on the supply continuity. So that's why when we already secure this demand, we can easily choose the location that we want to penetrate, and after that the challenge will be on the operational excellence, how we create a system that can be monitored in multi-location and put the right people and train them using our standardization. That's where the technology part came in, where we automate some process on the transaction. We automate through the Aruna local Kiros app, and then most of the people on the ground focus on training and accompanying the fishermen. So that's what we do.
Yeah, when you mentioned about logistics, I mean, I guess there are different ways of looking at logistics, right? Like some people take on a more decentralized approach to logistics, and the way that you kind of connect the warehouses to certain distribution points to some of your suppliers. I mean, what is the thought process around that for you guys? I mean, given that you mentioned, right, like the demand is there, but the supply may not always be there and can be very unpredictable. How do you kind of structure? What's the strategy around that and the thinking around that?
Well, if we can, please go ahead, Farid.
Okay, thank you, David. So for Aruna, the first thing is we build the collection point at first. We built the centralized collection point, a small collection point that we built to become the aggregation hub for the fishermen to put their products. So this point is located near the fisherman village everywhere, and the number is 100 plus location now. The investment is very cheap, around $15,000 per site, and it's 6 to 9 months payback period. So that's the one thing. So we will have like a very fast network of the aggregator hub from this fisherman. And the second thing, we built a transit warehouse. This transit warehouse located in a big city that mostly become the transportation hub for every island in Indonesia. Like in Sumatra, there is like Medan, in Sulawesi, there's Makassar, Kendari, and in Java, there is Surabaya, Jakarta, and Semarang. So this transit will adjust to where our aggregator or supply point location. So if there is change of demand, we can adjust through this network of the supply point network. So that's why we can choose the shortest path from that. So we use the decentralized strategy for that logistics.
Yeah, follow up on that again. Yeah, sorry, go David, and I'll go follow up on that.
Okay, then sorry. So I think from the logistic point of view, we have two things within our consideration. Every time we want to expand, every time we want to grow bigger, right? One is distance. I think I mentioned earlier that we have to be within 200 kilometers of the consuming cities, meaning that we could not afford any cross-regional supplies. So even Central Java could not cross to West Java or even East to Java, or so West Java will supply to its own, Central to its own, and East to its own. And then the second thing is about volume. It is true that farmers in Indonesia are very fragmented, but what most people miss is they do have small piece of land, but they are located next to each other. So what we can do is we can consolidate all of them. Even at one point, we can do a farm unification. So these farm unifications will enable us to increase production yield and effectiveness by using machinery like tractor and drones. So that way, from one single supply point, we can increase so much in terms of volume. So the distance is very short and the volume is very big, right? So that's how, that's two main variables that we are thinking every time we expand our supply network and our demand network as well.
Got it. Okay. I understand that Aruna also supplies credit to farmers. I don't know if, is this the same for both of you, or is it just for Aruna? And how are you guys thinking in terms of, providing loans? I think like microloans is something that we've seen before in especially the agriculture space. But what are some of your plans on that particular front, and how do you envision some of these products being rolled out to some of your clients?
Okay, from Aruna's side, yeah, we already do the partnership for channeling loan. So we do the partnership with the one that already have the license for the loan distribution, like the peer-to-peer or the state-owned bank or local bank. So we distribute the loan to our fishermen for the productive loan. So the fishermen that want to increase their production, to upgrade their production too, so they can produce better with higher quality, they use this loan to upgrade. So that's the one thing, we got the revenue model commission fee from that. But the interesting point with Aruna, when we expand in many locations, when we increase our transaction, the number of fishermen is growing, and not only the fishermen, but the local people that we empower to become like the processor staff in the aggregator hub of supply point, because we empower the woman, sometimes the fisherman wife, to become the processor on that village. And then this all community can become our market, not only for financing, insurance, but also the daily needs. And that's the one I think Aruna have advantage, because even the local bank didn't have an access to this very remote region. Sometimes they depend to Aruna. They want to partnership with us to distribute the product, to expand to this kind of market. They didn't have the infrastructure. But for Aruna, we already have presence there. It's just a matter of when we already try to push the growth on that side. But for now, for Aruna, if we talk about the next few years, the short-term period, we targeted to become a market leader for every fish transaction. So when we already have a huge amount of partner, we will expand to other vertical, more better and more structure.
Got it. David?
Okay, from the Eden Farm side, technically we do give them credit, but not in the form of cash, because when we give cash to the farmers, they will get remarried and they will buy a motorcycle, they will buy new toys. So what we give them is a production input. We have established multiple collection facility which function as the distribution point. Right. So we give them production input like seed, fertilizers, and also pesticide and vitamins. In return, we can extract more margins out of each product or each harvest, because we give that production input for free to them as working capital investment. And then after that, when they harvest, we only need to pay our farmers like a farming fee. But at the end of the day, the margin will be a lot more compared to we are not financing them in that way.
Okay. Last question, very, very last question for both of you. Both of you are in two, one is in agri and the other is in e-fishery. I'm sure you've also looked at similar models all around the world, whether it's India or China or US and all that. Who would you say, if there was one company that you could emulate, and would love your company to emulate, or you have actively tried to borrow concepts from, or you think has done a really good job in your sector? Could you share with us which companies are you kind of comparing yourself against?
I think from my side, it's going to be Cisco from the US.
Okay.
Mhm.
Could you elaborate a little bit? Like why do you
Right. So sorry. So Cisco in the US, they have a B2B customers. They've been around for around 28 years, and they've been massively profitable company. What they have done that we haven't done it yet is to make processed food. They are not only distributing raw material directly from the farmers, but sometimes they also process it to become cheese, to become other food ingredients. Maybe that's going to be also one of our future.
Got it. All right.
Okay, for Aruna, I think it depends on the definition you think on the business model. But if you talk about the current business model on the supply chain aggregator platform as a tech company, we see another company in India that called Characterised that has the same model with us. That if we compare in terms of model, if we think in Indonesia, I think there is several company, but I think the model is very different. There is a lot of company that focusing on the aquaculture side, how to improve the productivity and the others. So I think it's very different for Aruna, because Aruna itself focusing on the coastline community, focus on the supply chain. So we cover both of the fishermen and also farmers that do the producing activity near the coastline. So that's the one thing. If you talk about the comparing company, we see Captain Press is one of the comparing company with the same model. But in Indonesia or in other region, I think it's not yet founding, unless the another model like the marketplace or something like that only do the C2C model. But for us, it's not many.
Sorry, you said India, there was one particular company. What's the name of it again? And in what areas have they done well that you like, or in what areas are you think that model will not play well in Indonesia?
Okay. If you talk about the model, I think Aruna the first one that using that the Captain Press name of the company. Captain Press starting in 2019, but Aruna starting in 2016. But what we analyze that they use the same model like us in India, and it's valid. So we think that the model we use in Indonesia currently is also valid, and that's why we can scaling up fast because of that. So that's the way we see that as a comparable, not the one that we try to analyze to use the model from that, but the one that also has the same model after we are founding the Aruna company. But if you talk about another thing like the fisheries company all over the world, we also establish our own brand and product development. We even already launched our product in North America using Aruna brand, so our D2C brand. So if we compare that business model, we can compare with another food manufacturing company, distribution company like Thai Union in Thailand, and the other that producing the seafood product with their own brand.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. Thank you to our audience as well. We hope that you will stick around for the other panelists and the other panels. We will see you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Christy.